One of the things we talk about with Mikhail, Tommy, Jacques Vaughn, interim tag off, head coach, signed a multi-year extension recently. Very happy for him. Seen his growth as a coach. I played for him his first year as a head coach. Here's what's interesting. Jacques Vaughn, my year with him, his first year coaching, my 7th year in Orlando, he was a behind the bench guy, not a front of the bench guy. Came in, and I thought he did a great job for given what we had, given the Orlando Magic objective to sort of rebuild. I don't know that we were tanking that year, but we certainly wanted to rebuild after we traded Dwight. Joe Mazzulla also just got the interim tag ripped off. Also just signed a multi-year extension. He was behind the bench last year. And now Joe Mazzulla is coaching the number 1 team in the NBA and is the front runner for Coach of the Year at 34 years old. NBA discourse centers around players all the time, as it should. The players are the stars. The players are the ones that play the game. I don't think it's been talked about enough what Joe Mazzulla has done this year.
Do you think that that's because this team is taken with the immense amount of talent that they have, it's being taken for granted a little bit?
I think it's been taken for granted because people assume he just inherited, which he did. He inherited a really good team. Yeah. And Brad Stevens, to his credit, Gallinari, I know, got hurt. I liked that addition. I don't think he would help them defensively, but I like that addition because they did need more shooting. Brogdon has been spectacular. I love the Mike Muscala addition. But I want to just break some things down real quick. If you would just give me a minute and a half
to
talk about Mazzulla ball. Mazzulla ball. What are the differences? From my vantage point as an observer watching the game, I've picked up on a few things. When Rob Williams is not on the court, they play 5 shooters pretty much all the time. They have shooting galore. They have people that can break down a defense. Not just Tatum, not just Jaylen Brown. Malcolm Brogdon can do it. Derek White can do it, right? What they do out of that is zip. Coaches talk about this, players talk about this, good to great. The idea of good to great. You get a kick-out pass, you've got a defender closing at you. Rather than shooting it, if you see a teammate who has no one within 15 to 20 feet, you kick it. Maybe the defense makes a miraculous recovery. You drive it again. It is this perfect balance of aggression, unselfishness, ball movement. That's my vantage point as an observer. Now let's talk about the numbers. Because sometimes people say, well, analytics, eye test. No. Analytics often reinforce the eye test. They often reinforce the eye test. One of the things, they take a lot of threes. A lot of threes. They're second in the league in three-point attempts and three-point makes. Golden State is 1 in those. Three-point percentage, they're 7th. So they have shooting. Assist, they're 6th in the league per game in assists. 26.4. Last year, 14th in the league at 24.8. Oh, okay. So they are passing. They're moving the ball more. Okay. Makes 15.9 three-point makes per game this year. Last year, 13.2. Assist percentage, which is a great stat because that's adjusted to pace. 5th in the league. 63.1% of their possessions end in an assist. Last year, around 60%. 14th in the league last year. Now, what effect has that had on their offense? Okay. Offensive rating, almost 117 points per 100 possession. That's 3rd in the league. Last year, they were great offense, 9th in the league, 113.6. So they're getting 3.3 points per 100 more this year. They started off slow defensively. They were a great defense, especially January on last year. They're now 4th defensively in the league, 3rd best offense. And they have leaned in recently to this idea of creating good three-point shots. Since the start of February, 45.6 threes per game, up from 42.2 for the season. And they're shooting 42.5% from 3 in those games since the start of February. Both of those tops in the league. Tops in the league. 2 years ago, when I would watch the Celtics, I saw a lot of ISO-heavy basketball. I saw a lack of body movement. I saw a lack of ball movement. Ime introduced this idea.
Yeah,
Joe Mazzulla has doubled down on this. Ime's done,
last fall, even this was like this.
Ime, their offense was awesome. And there were times in the playoffs where they stagnated a little bit. Their offense was awesome for the second half of last season. Awesome. I don't have the exact numbers from, let's say, when they were 25 and 25 and they went 26-6 down the stretch. But it was a great offense. They ended up being 9th overall last year. But he has just doubled down. So what is intriguing to me about Joe, because from what I know, a lot of the guys loved Ime as a coach. He was tough on them. He made them accountable, all that stuff. Joe is a 34-year-old behind the bench assistant, comes in and gets the buy-in and gets the trust. Can't be overstated how remarkable that is. It really can't. And so when we talk about end of season awards, which we like to do on the show, Joe Mazzulla, DraftKings Sportsbook, plus 170, has the best odds right now to win Coach of the Year. And truthfully, Tommy, and I'm curious to get your opinion on this based on a bunch of great coaches doing phenomenal jobs this year. It's his to lose unless I'm crazy.
Well, I have a question for you about this particular award, just from a voting perspective, because I think the other person that I wanted to bring up is the person who's now moved up to second on this list. And when you're deciding Coach of the Year, how much are you just weighing the individual talent on a roster? Because when you look at the Celtics, I mean, obviously this team was in the finals last year. They were a finals, favorite this year going into the season. Tatum has exceeded that. I mean, he's in. We've talked about it a ton. Is an arguable MVP. This is a team that has an immense amount of talent, and so the guy that I wanted to bring up was Mike Brown, who started the season plus 8,000 on DraftKings, is now up to plus 240. So he is now he's number 2 to Joe on the DraftKings listings. There's a lot of talent on the Kings. We've talked about De'Aaron. We've talked about Sabonis. This is not a team that has like a dearth of talent, but I wouldn't necessarily say they are as talented as the Celtics when you're making this, this
it's a fair point. I think a lot of this award comes down to expectations. So I've mentioned this before. I think what a successful career looks like as a player. Did you maximize your talent? Because some of the stuff, your fit, teams, trades, contract, like it's all out of your control. A lot of what goes into a career is out of your control. But there's certain things you can't control. If you maximize your talent, that's a successful career. I think that applies here with coaching. If you maximize your team, regardless of the expectations, that is a job well done. Yeah. And to me, Mazzulla has done that. Mike Brown has done that. Mike Malone has done that. Mike Malone is 3rd on DraftKings Sportsbook. He's at plus 260 right now. I think Jacques Vaughn has done that. Like,
can I give you a deep sleeper?
Yeah, I know who you're going to say, but yes.
Mark Daigneault, OKC.
I don't think you said his name right, but yeah.
I looked this up like 5 times, so if I got it wrong, Jason, can we fact check this?
All right, so Mark Daigneault, right?
Mark Daigneault in OKC.
But that's how he was, I believe that's how he was introduced at his press conference. And then the Thunder released something right after his press conference. That's how Presti introduced him as Mark Daigneault.
That's what I was watching, yeah.
And then the Thunder released a thing on Twitter or a press release where they said it's Mark Daigneault. And then if you just Google how to pronounce Mark Daigneault,
it's different.
It's a French pronunciation, which you just attempted.
Yes, it's different.
So, you know what? It's a great one, Tommy, because I actually think when we're talking about that sort of that concept of maximization, he has done that with the Thunder. Even people that are above him in terms of the odds, Doc Rivers, Bud's done a great job. I'm not knocking Bud's thing, but Mark Daigneault to me has maximized this team, and they have a super bright future.
Can I throw some numbers at you since January 1st?
Yeah, I would love
January
these numbers. Yes.
Since January 1st, the Thunder are first in offensive rating, first in points per game, second in net rating, third in three-point percentage, third in steals, and they have the fifth easiest schedule to finish the season. So they're 10th in the West right now. They're in the playoffs if the playoffs started tomorrow. But, they could be in 6th or 7th by the time we get to May. And so I wonder if that, we were talking about this as a team that was like in the Victor Wembanyama conversation before the season started. And so even them being in the playoffs, I wonder if that would sway some votes.
I think it would. I think it would. To me, and again, this is not a knock on Sacramento. To me, the likelihood of Sacramento being in that second or third spot in the West, given what the Clippers have done recently with Kawhi and their additions, and given Phoenix and Dallas, I don't think he ends up as the coach of the year if the Kings are in 5th or 6th in the West.
Yep.
I think a more likely scenario, let's say the Bucks continue this insane hot streak. Maybe the Celtics have a couple off weeks, and all of a sudden the Thunder get in that 7 spot or the 8 spot with like a 44-38 record. There's probably a lot of buzz about Mark Daigneault. That to me is like, that's the scenario where he's got a real chance. By the way, these Thunder numbers, I love it. Like the second in the league over a 6-year or 6-week stretch in net rating, that is not insignificant. That's premium right there. Yeah. Net rating is one of the greatest indicators we have. And it's a very simple stat. It's just based on offensive rating per 100, defensive rating per 100. It's one of the greatest indicators of how a team is playing and how good a team is relative to the rest of their peers. The Thunder are really good. You brought up the 3-point shooting too, and we're hoping, obviously we don't want to give anything away, but we're hoping to get Giddey on. So I was doing a bunch of research on Giddey and Shea, and both those guys drive the ball a lot. And so on paper, you would say two guys that aren't particularly great shooters. Giddey's around 30%. Shea, obviously, a little better at 34%. But two guys that aren't great shooters that play minutes together and both handle the ball. Like, on paper, that seems like it wouldn't work. They have so many good shooters on that roster. And I want to give a shout out to Isaiah Joe. Isaiah Joe shooting 45% going into the All-Star break. The motherfucker should have been in the 3-point contest. I don't know if he turned it down. Yeah. I don't know if the NBA didn't ask. I don't know what the parameters were. Maybe he wasn't planning on going to All-Star weekend, whatever. But he should have been in that contest. He's having a phenomenal season.
We should also mention the youngest team in the NBA. The average age is like 23.1 or something like that.
Yeah.
But and that's another thing with coaching. I mean, these aren't a bunch of vets that have been there and have been through these battles before. It's almost like it's a bunch of young guys who are too young to know any better, and to be intimidated by anybody.
Exactly. They got a bright future, and obviously excited to see what Chet Holmgren does next season. NBA fans, it's time to bring the hoops action to the palm of your hand with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. This week, new customers can download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and sign up with code JJ. Right now, you can bet $5 on any pregame moneyline bet and get $150 in bonus bets if your team wins. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code JJ. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details.